This is Hamlet at Bardfest 2019, the podcast. I'm your host and the director of Hamlet at Bardfest in 2019, Doug Powers. We're going to devote this episode to the somewhat different approach we're going to take to fundraising for our production, and we're calling this episode The Bard Gives Back. So I've set a precedent that I will spend the first moments of each episode correcting anything I misstated in the previous episode. And this time, all I have is last week I said that Olivier's film of Hamlet was from 1947. According to IMDb, it was 1948. I almost didn't bother mentioning that one. It's pretty close. I think I did pretty well for not having the data in front of me. So in terms of news for our production this week, now that we have our cast, there's not a whole lot going on for a little bit. That will very soon change, but for right now, it's sort of the calm before the storm. We have started to obtain props. If you follow us on our social media, you may have seen that we now have the character of Yorick cast. We have our skull that will be serving as Yorick's. Always a very important prop to any production of Hamlet. And right now we're doing a lot of logistical preparations, thinking about where we might locate costumes and which of our ideas about setting and such might prove to be the best as well as the most practical, given that we have so many characters and so many actors to provide for. So all that work that is a necessary part of it, that's where we are right now. It's still very preliminary, but we're going to gear up and start ready to start rehearsing in the next few months. It's not exactly show related, but I am going to be starting a class in rapier and dagger combat this week. Not so much directly for the show. I just have the opportunity to take it, and I'm going to. So I'm going to be doing that in the coming week. That'll be exciting and sort of in line with the final duel at the end between Hamlet and Laertes, but obviously I'm not going to be taking part in that. In terms of other Shakespeare news around town, the promo poster designs for Bardfest are apparently going to be dropping on Monday, which would be the 24th. So by the time you hear this, they may already have dropped. But that's pretty exciting. There's a production of As You Like It with Garfield Shakespeare Company that has just announced its cast. That production is directed by Carrie Shea, who played Hamlet in First Folio's production of Hamlet in 2016, and also directed me in King Lear and has worked with me as a fellow actor in a number of shows as well. So congratulations to Carrie for a great cast. In fact, it's such a great cast that his cast and my casts actually have a lot of people in common. So it's going to be a very Shakespeare-y year for quite a few people. So that's pretty exciting. So As You Like It at Garfield Shakespeare Company runs August 16th through the 31st. And of course, Indianapolis Shakespeare Company, or Indie Shakes, their touring company of As You Like It and Much Ado About Nothing, those are going on now. And of course, their Hamlet opens July 25th. Also opening July 25th is Noblesville's production in the park of Macbeth. So there's a whole lot of Shakespeare going on for this year, which is very cool. If you know of any that I'm missing in the area, please, by all means, let me know. I'll get them added to these announcements in future episodes. So another feature that I've wanted to add to our podcast is to provide an odd word of the week from the script. Early modern English has some significant differences from what we currently speak, and a lot of people can be thrown off by some of the bizarre, to our ears, words that get used in Shakespeare. So the word I want to mention this time is the word fardel, as in who would fardels bear from the oh-so-famous To Be or Not To Be soliloquy. A fardel is simply a bundle of items, a traveler's bundle, a bundle of things you're carrying, but specifically in this case, when that bundle becomes a burden. So, who would fardels or burdens bear to grunt and sweat under a weary life? So now when you hear the to be or not to be speech, you'll know what a fartle is if you didn't before. Another feature I want to add to our podcast, and it's going to be one of those irregular features. When I have something to mention, I'll mention it. If I don't, it may not appear in every episode. But I'm calling it the underplayed Hamlet moment of the week. And I'm going to feature a part in the story that I think a lot of people underplay. And I'm going to start with the moment at the very beginning of the play when the character of Bernardo, the Danish sentry, arrives to relieve Francisco, who has been on watch. And never two more Danish names were ever committed to paper than Bernardo and Francisco. Not very Danish, but, that's okay. Who knows why Will chose those names, but those are their names. And very often when I have watched productions of Hamlet, whether on film or on stage, Bernardo, when he arrives to relieve Francisco, Bernardo says, "Who's there?" And Francisco answers, "Nay, answer me, stand and unfold yourself." This is not normal. Very often it ends up coming across as a simple standard sentry, halt, who goes there? Oh, it's you? Okay, that's fine. But that's not what's happening, because it's not Francisco who issues the initial challenge, it's Bernardo. And that's not what's supposed to happen. It's supposed to be Francisco who challenges Bernardo, and Bernardo identifies himself, and then Francisco can relax, right? But Francisco, one gets the impression he's sort of a young, low-ranking soldier, and he's all alone up on that section of the platform or rampart or wherever you've decided to set that opening scene. It's the middle of the night, it's cold, and Francisco has been told by his superiors to expect an invasion from Norway literally at any moment. Now, exactly how many details Francisco knows about this, but he knows that he is under strict orders to watch out that direction of the wall for invaders. And if he finds them, it is all on him to raise the alarm. If the invaders come from that direction, he's the only one there who can raise the alarm at Elsinore and make sure that Elsinore mounts its defenses. So poor Francisco has every reason in the world to be a little bit tense, shall we say. And here comes this figure out of the darkness that speaks to him when that's not what's supposed to happen. Now, as far as Francisco knows, that could be anyone. That could be his relief, which would be great, or that could be a Norwegian invader who's not even asking who's there to him, but to other Norwegian compatriots who have scaled the wall from the other side. But whatever the details, Francisco has no reason at that moment not to drop Bernardo where he stands, because he's not supposed to be there, and that's not what's supposed to happen when he arrives, right? And from Bernardo's standpoint, this is the third night in a row that he will have been, third night in a row that he will have been on his watch and literally seen a ghost. Now, that's enough to make Bernardo a little edgy too. So Bernardo arrives and sees a figure in the darkness. Now, from Bernardo's standpoint, that figure in the darkness could be the soldier he's there to relieve, which would be great, or it could be a Norwegian invader, which would be bad, or it could be the ghost, which would also be bad. So Bernardo has every reason to be tense and to ask a very unauthoritative "who's there?" and that would give Francisco all the reason in the world to react very strongly to Bernardo's arrival. So, I think it's important that this exchange between Francisco and Bernardo establish right away the incredibly high level of tension that exists in Denmark before the events of this play ever begin. Denmark is under imminent threat of invasion. We get that from Horatio's speech in that first scene that almost everyone cuts. I'm not going to cut it, by the way. I'm trimming it, but I'm not cutting it. In which Horatio talks about how fervently Denmark is preparing for war with Norway, because Fortinbras has made all sorts of threats to invade Denmark. So everybody is at an extremely high level of tension. And this exchange right from the very beginning establishes that. And this is absolutely not a normal relief of a century. And too often it's just this very formal, and too often in my opinion, it's just this very formal and very normal, Halt, who goes there? Oh, it's you? Oh, okay, that's great. Thanks for coming to relieve me. But it's not. That's not what I think it is. And hopefully we'll be able to convey that when we get to it. So now that we've got those features out of the way, let's talk about what we're devoting this episode to. We are piloting a program for BardFest that I want to talk about a little bit because it's different from the norm. We are crowdfunding our production of Hamlet in part, supplementing our funding sources with a crowdfunding campaign, but it is different from most crowdfunding campaigns. You could call it crowdfunding with a conscience. What we're doing is we're reworking a program that I used very successfully some years ago with a different production. And we're calling it The Bard Gives Back. If you've been to the BardFest website, you may have seen the page devoted to it. The way it works is we have a dedicated PayPal site through Carmel Theater Company. Carmel Theater Company is the parent entity of BardFest, and Carmel Theater Company is a 501c3. So your contributions to the crowdfunding campaign are tax deductible, which is why we don't offer premiums and rewards like other crowdfunding, like GoFundMe and things, because you get the tax deduction, and you can't get the tax deduction if you get premiums. So one or the other, and we're going with the tax deduction. But in addition to that, we also have a list of 10 partner organizations that do community service work, in good work in the community, that we're asking the donors to choose one of those partner organizations to give their donation on behalf of that organization. And we've tied each one to a phrase from Hamlet. So, for example, we have the Indianapolis American Heart Association, which is associated with "And I Am Sick at Heart." BardFest itself is one of the partner organizations, and of course, for that one, the play is the thing. Dayspring Center, which is a shelter for homeless families. This is Francisco's line, in fact, "For this relief, much thanks." Dress for Success, which provides professional attire and professional support to help women enter or re-enter the workforce. We've associated that with "I Find Thee Apt." Extra points if you can identify, other than the one I already identified in Francisco, who said each of these. We have the Humane Society of Indianapolis, which you can probably predict as we've associated with "And Dog Will Have His Day." The Indiana Historical Society, which we've associated with "Sir, a Whole History." Indie Convergence, which is a living and collaborating center for artists locally, and we've associated that with "For Art and Exercise." Indie Reads, which is a literacy program that operates Indie Reads books and is also associated with the many now Books and Brews locations around the area, which is a wonderful place and actually one of our sponsors for BardFest. So there, of course, with words. And we have Public Advocates in Community Reentry, or PACE, which provides support for offenders and ex-offenders and their families to reenter society after incarceration. And for them, we have Denmark's a Prison. We have WFYI Public Broadcasting to round out our list of partner organizations, but they are associated with All Given to Mine Ear. So we have these 10 partner organizations, and when people donate whatever amount they choose to our campaign, they pick one of these partner organizations to donate on behalf of. And each time one of the partner organizations reaches $100 in donations on its behalf, we will dedicate a performance of Hamlet to that organization. And what that will mean is that BardFest will donate a portion of that performance's proceeds to the organization. We and the organization will also cross-promote each other. We'll say, this on this particular night, once we get the performances scheduled, this performance is dedicated to whichever partner it's dedicated to, and we will promote that as we promote that performance, and then hopefully they will promote it as well. And we help each other. The organization and BardFest help each other get the word out. about the organization, about BardFest, and about the dedicated performance. We will mention the organization in the curtain speech. We'll give the organization a chance to communicate its message at that performance. And we'll also let attendees know how they can continue to support the organization that gets the dedicated performance. However, the organization chooses to have us do that. So the whole idea of this program is to create a scenario in which everybody wins, right? The people who donate get to support the arts and the community at the same time. And Hamlet, our production, as well as BardFest as a whole, and the organizations all get not only fundraising, but also the chance to get their message in front of a new audience. I used a similar program a few years ago with a different production. I've adapted it for our current purpose. But I do firmly believe in this notion of doing art that's not just for the sake of doing art, which is a more than valid and noble goal in itself, but also we do the art that is for the community and benefits the community in ways other than simply providing art for the community. I think this notion of marrying arts with public service is a worthy goal, and I firmly believe it can be successful. So that's why we've piloted this program this year with Hamlet, because I really like this idea, and it's important to me to do things that I want to make good art, and I also want to do things that are of other forms of benefit to the community as a whole. So, in terms of where we stand right now, we have 2 performances dedicated out of 5 already. One of those is dedicated to BardFest itself, which means there will be no donation out of that, but that's how the public has so far voted with its dollars. And the other one is going to Dayspring Center, the homeless shelter for families, which is lovely. And so we have those 2 performances dedicated. We have 5 more that we need to dedicate for our total of 7 performances. And if we go beyond that, we may find performances of other BardFest shows getting dedicated to the partners if we can get that many of them to get dedicated performances, which would be fantastic. So right now, BardFest is just $5 away from getting a second dedicated night. Again, nobody directly associated with BardFest has been responsible for that. That's just what people have chosen so far. So BardFest has one night dedicated already, and they're $5 away from getting a second one. WFYI and the American Heart Association are each just $25 away from a dedicated performance, so that's really quite close. Indie Convergence still needs $55 to get there. The Humane Society needs $75. Indie Reads needs $80. Dress for Success and Pace each need $90. And the Historical Society right now is trailing the pack. They still need the full $100. So if in that list you heard your favorite partner organization and you want to help get them over the line, you can go to www.indiebardfest.com/the-bard-gives-back. Or you can just go to the BardFest homepage. From the menu at the top of the screen, click More, and the second option on that More menu will be the page for The Bard Gives Back. So you can go there, look at the organizations. They're all linked to their websites from that page, so you can investigate them further if you like. And then the donate button for the PayPal page is right there, as well as links if your button image doesn't load for whatever reason. So you have ways of getting there. So yeah, we certainly encourage you to help us make this program a success, both for the benefit of our production, but also for the benefit of these really very worthy organizations that do really good work in our community in a lot of really important ways, and in a variety of ways that hopefully you can find one or more that you want to support. So help us help them and help the Bard give back. So, as a reminder, the Bardfest Festival runs October 17th through the 27th of this year, and we will be at the Indy Fringe Theater on St. Clair Street, as well as the District Theater on Mass Ave. And along with Hamlet, of course, you will have Henry IV Part 1, Two Gents, which is an adaptation of Two Gentlemen of Verona, and the youth production of The Tempest. You can go to www.indiebardfest.com, search for Indie Bardfest on Facebook and Instagram, and on Twitter, it's under First Folio Indie, all one word, First Folio Indie. So that's how you find out about the festival, and we'll be aware when tickets go on sale. That won't be for a bit yet, but when they do, you'll be ready. And as far as our production of Hamlet, on Facebook, we are Hamlet Bardfest. On Instagram, we are Hamlet Bardfest 2019. On Twitter, we're Hamlet Bardfest. We are on YouTube with Hamlet, and then last name Bardfest 2019. And we do also have a Tumblr, Hamlet Bardfest 2019. So on basically all your favorite social media, you can find us. Our YouTube channel has episodes of this podcast, as well as once we get going, we'll have rehearsal and promotional videos as well, and lots of other resources in terms of information about Hamlet, sort of synopses and analyses and interviews with notable actors and directors and scholars who've given a lot of thought to Hamlet, as well as instructional videos for dissecting some of the scenes in Hamlet, and as well as just generally acting Shakespeare or doing monologues, just all kinds of great stuff out there. So I strongly encourage you to check out all of our social media, but in particular the YouTube channel. And of course, you have the podcast that you are currently listening to, which is available on basically all your favorite podcast platforms. We are hosted on Buzzsprout, so we're always there, but we're also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. And then I will also post the episodes to YouTube as well. So again, thanks for listening, as always. And until next time, be well and take care of each other, and not just of each other, but of your communities as a whole.